welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, World Bank promises to work with Nigeria in promoting transparency and accountability in governance. Drama as bail application for pro-Biafra leader Nnamdi Kanu is fixed for January 29th. The trial of PDP spokesman resumes as witness tells the court how the accused was allegedly helped to invest $2 million in cash. Minister of State for Petroleum gives assurances that production in the nation's refineries will resume within 30 days. And the World Health Organization warns that the Zika virus may spread across the Americas.
On business news tonight, U.S. Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker assures Nigeria of improved business partnership.
And on sports news tonight, the National Basketball Association picks Nigeria's special athlete Temitope Amodu for its 2016 All-Star event in February.
And from Abuja, I'm Linda Akibe. Security operatives kill 14 suspected Boko Haram insurgents in Yobe in its first major raid this year. The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, will on January the 29th know whether he will be released on bail. Justice James Shoho of the Federal High Court in Abuja adjourned the ruling on his bail application following arguments between counsel to Mr. Kanu and the Director of Public Prosecution. Citing sections 158 and 162 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, Mr. Kanu told the court that he was liable to bail in the fairest terms. Lawyer to Mr. Kanu urged the court to grant his client bail on the grounds that the offence for which he is standing trial is not a capital offence. Counsel to the prosecution, Mr. Mohammed Diri, however, opposed the bail application on the grounds that Mr. Kanu possesses dual citizenship and may not be available to stand trial. Just after the court proceedings, a mild drama ensued between Mr. Kanu and a prison official.
Stop pushing me!
It's too tight, my friend, it's too tight. Can you release it? It is tight, I'm telling you it's tight. Can you release it? It's tight. I said it is tight. Can you release this? It is tight. Mr. Man, how can you say this is tight? You see, he keeps pressing it. It is tight. Can you open it and adjust it, please?
We moved our application for bail of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and two others. On the last adjourned day, the prosecution said they were not ready for us to take our bail application. And then the matter was adjourned for today. Luckily, all the parties were present. The prosecution were ready to go on, and we moved our motion. Our motion was argued, and then every proceedings went through. And what we are waiting for now is the ruling for his application for bail. For what we have been asking from the magistrate court up to this point is that they are entitled to bail. So the court has adjourned to 29th January for ruling on that bail application. However, we are not happy to observe what took place in the court today. Shortly after the court, when the court rose, the officers from the prisons started malhandling my clients, especially the first defendant. They were pushing him from both sides, front and back. And then we know that we'll keep sounding that he is presumed innocent until the contrary is proven.
Staying with legal matters, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has opened its case against the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Olisa Metu, at the Federal High Court in Abuja. A prosecution witness and former wealth manager with the Commercial Resource Management Company told the court how Mr. Metu gave her the sum of $2 million and how she managed the funds for him. Our correspondent Amaka Ukafo reports.
In what has become the usual, the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party arrived in the company of prison officials and in handcuffs. Inside the court, he exchanges banters and hugs with friends and relatives. And shortly after the proceedings for trial commenced, Metu's lawyer informed the court of an application seeking for variation of his bail conditions. The Judge, Justice Obong Abang, fixed hearing for the 27th of January 2016 to enable the prosecution respond to the application.
On that day, we hope that some of the conditions will be varied, because the essence of bail is to assist an accused person or a defendant in this case to enjoy his liberty while he prepares for his defense.
The court, however, rejected the request for adjournment of the trial. Led in evidence, the first prosecution witness, a former wealth manager to Mr. Metu, told the court of how she received $2 million in $100 bills from him, which he took to two bureau de change companies for onward transfer to the asset and resource management account of Mr. Metu and his company. The lawyer to Mr. Metu, however, asked for an adjournment for him to prepare materials required for cross-examination. But then again, the judge refused the request on the ground that there is no cogent reason before the court to do so. Done with her testimony, a second witness, the owner of a bureau de change company, corroborated her testimony on how he received half of the said fund and each transfer same to the account of Mr. Metu.
Well, I'm sure you are eyewitnesses and you saw how trial has commenced in this case. We have so far called 2 prosecution witnesses. Trial continues tomorrow.
We came here armed to see the plethora of evidence they have about arms deal, about diversion, about this. All we have seen here are legal, private transactions.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission succeeded in calling 2 out of the 18 witnesses listed on the charge sheet. Trial Judge Justice Obong Abang has adjourned trial to the 26th of January 2016. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
The World Bank has pledged additional support for the president's efforts to entrench accountability and transparency across the country. Country Director for Nigeria and Coordinating Director for West Africa Regional Integration Program, Mr. Rashid bin Masoud, told journalists during a visit to the Minister of Science and Technology in Abuja that the conversation on areas to turn things around in the country is ongoing with various ministries. Mr. bin Masoud notes that it would be aspiring to lend huge support in other sectors like agriculture, security, solid minerals and science and technology to assist in repositioning Nigeria as a global economic hub of Africa.
We have heard from a number of cabinet ministers about the importance of diversifying the revenues away from the oil sectors, and we have been working with both the Ministry of Agriculture and Solid Minerals in these particular areas. We have also looking into further support in the power sector. As you know, the power sector is a binding constraint to growth. Science and technology plays an important role in this all of our support because it looks at the aspect of efficiency and innovations. The World Bank, I think the government of Nigeria is taking the right step in dealing with governance issues. Our role is to support the government of Nigeria in its effort in improving the transparency and accountability or in the development program that we do. So it starts with accountability and transparency.
To talk more on transparency and the recovery of Nigeria's funds abroad is a legal practitioner and counsel to the AFCC, Mr. Wahab Shitu. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, we now have an ally in the World Bank, as you've just seen, in terms of transparency and accountability. What will that do to the dynamic of the fight in terms of moving forward, what we see?
Well, you know that the fight against corruption, for instance, is closely tied to the developmental process. And central to this is the element of international cooperation. You had the World Bank representative mention issues bordering on diversification of the economy, issues relating to solid minerals development, science and technology, promotion of agriculture, and other governance issues. all of these cannot effectively and efficiently take place. I mean, in terms of development, we cannot have all of this where we have serious issues of corruption. So the World Bank is in furtherance of international cooperation to prevent and combat corruption. There are three critical areas here. The World Bank is concerned with measures designed to prevent and combat corruption as part of its efforts to ensure the promotion of the developmental process. Secondly, the World Bank is also concerned with international cooperation to prevent and combat corruption. Again, the World Bank is concerned with institutional strengthening by way of technical assistance and exchange of information, as well as creating the enabling environment to assist all countries, particularly developing countries like Nigeria.
Well, we've seen the president signing so many agreements. I mean, sometime last week he was in the United Arab Emirates signing an agreement on legal assistance on criminal matters, extradition and transfer of sentenced prisoners. How exactly are we going to tie this all in and see results as soon as possible?
The fight against corruption is both local and international, because corruption is seen as a crime against humanity. And if you realize the extent of the rot we have, there's no way we can fight this war against corruption without the element of international cooperation. And if you look at the agreements, the 6 agreements just signed by the president at the United States Arab Emirates, they relate to about 6 fundamentals.
Yeah.
1, extradition. 2, extradition. It relates to mutual legal assistance on criminal matters, mutual legal assistance on criminal and commercial matters. It also relates to the transfer of sentenced persons. Now, these are key areas, because in the fight against corruption, you must be concerned about prevention.
I'm just going to ask you quickly, being counsel to the EFCC, you've seen the criticism about the nature of the fight and how it's going in terms of following the rule of law. Would you say everything is okay and you're in right standing with the way the war is being prosecuted?
I think, first of all, the perspective we should examine is that corruption hurts all of us. So fighting it is a shared responsibility. And there's also the raging debate between fighting corruption on one hand without derogating from the concept of the rule of law. And I think this administration is committed to the fight against corruption. And it's also committed to offering maximum respect for the rule of law. Okay. And I think what is playing out, you see, there are mechanisms within the system to assist persons whose rights are trampled upon. I think it's too early for people to begin, to focus attention on the style of combating corruption. Right. Instead of the substance of it.
Okay, Mr. Shitu, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight.
It's my pleasure.
And in part 2, after the break, the Nigerian Medical Association in Rivers State protests the killing of one of their members. That's all coming up in a moment. You stay with us.